Join me as I dive deep into the mysteries of the Sumerian tablets and challenge myself to uncover what happens if they really are the oldest evidence of human civilization. Did you know that some of the oldest written records date back to ancient Sumer, possibly changing our understanding of human civilization? 5,000 years ago, between two rivers, something extraordinary happened. Something that would echo through every generation that followed. The birth of everything we know. But what if everything we've been told is only the beginning? What if these clay tablets hold secrets that challenge the very foundations of human history? Mesopotamia. The Greeks called it the land between rivers. For modern scholars, this is where it all began, the cradle of civilization itself. Around 4,500 BCE, nomadic peoples descended from the surrounding hills into these fertile floodplains. They were not the first humans to walk this earth, but they would become the first to transform it entirely. The rivers gave life, but they also gave chaos, unpredictable floods, scorching droughts. Survival here demanded something unprecedented, cooperation on a massive scale. The Sumerians had no stone, no timber, only mud. Yet from this humble material, they built something that had never existed before. Cities: Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Nippur, Eridu. By 3,500 BCE, these weren't mere settlements. They were urban centers housing tens of thousands, protected by massive walls, crowned with ziggurats reaching toward the heavens. But cities need something villages never did. They need memory. They need records. They need writing. And here, in the temple complexes of ancient Sumer, humanity took its most revolutionary leap. In 1929, German archaeologists working in the ruins of Uruk made a discovery that would rewrite human history. Thousands of clay tablets, each covered in strange wedge-shaped marks. These weren't decorative. They weren't art. They were accounting ledgers. Records of barley, sheep, and beer rations. At first, the Sumerians drew pictures. A circle with lines for sheep, a bowl for food. But pictures take time. And time, in a growing bureaucracy, was precious. So the images simplified. Curved lines became wedges, pressed quickly into clay with a reed stylus. Pictographs became symbols. Symbols became sounds, and sounds became ideas. To master cuneiform required years of training. Young boys, only boys, were sent to the tablet houses, the Aduba, where they memorized thousands of signs, copied endless texts, and endured harsh discipline. Their practice tablets survive. We can see their errors, their frustrated, scratched-out attempts. One student wrote, "My headmaster read my tablet and was not satisfied. He caned me." But those who persevered became scribes, the most respected profession in Sumer, second only to priests. Because scribes held something no king could wield, immortality through words. A king's conquest could be forgotten in a generation. But a tablet could speak across millennia. And speak they have. But what they're telling us is far stranger than anyone expected. By 3000 BCE, the Sumerians weren't just counting sheep, they were recording everything. Contracts, court cases, letters, mathematical calculations, medical prescriptions, even personal complaints. One merchant named Ea Nasir received a scathing complaint about the poor quality of copper he'd delivered. The customer was furious, demanding a refund. Nasir kept the complaint tablet, perhaps as a reminder, or perhaps he just didn't care. But among the mundane, the bills and receipts and business deals, there are tablets that speak of something far more profound. The Sumerian king list. Every ancient civilization kept genealogies of their rulers, but this one is different. It begins normally enough. But then, before the flood, it records kings who ruled for thousands of years, tens of thousands. One king supposedly reigned for 43,200 years. And then the text says, the flood swept over. When kingship returned, the reigns became human again. 20 years, 30 years, numbers that make sense. The tablets speak of gods who walked among men. Enki, lord of wisdom and waters. Enlil, who commanded the winds. Inanna, whose rage could topple kingdoms. Were these gods merely myths, allegories for natural forces? Or were the Sumerians recording something else, something that came before, something older than civilization itself? The deeper we dig, the stranger it becomes. Because the Sumerians themselves insisted they were not the first. The city of Eridu holds a secret. According to Sumerian tradition, it was the first city ever built, the place where kingship descended from heaven. When archaeologists excavated Eridu, they found something remarkable. Beneath the Sumerian temples, there were older temples, and beneath those, older still. 18 successive temples, each built directly atop the ruins of its predecessor, stretching back to 5,400 BCE, 1,000 years before Sumerian civilization officially began. Who built these first temples? Who did they worship? And what knowledge did they possess that the Sumerians would later inherit? Archaeologists call them the Ubaid culture. They left no writing, but their pottery, their architecture, their burial practices suggest a society far more organized than simple farmers. And they left these: figurines with strange, elongated heads, large, almond-shaped eyes. Some scholars call them lizard people or serpent women. The Sumerians who came after never made anything like them. Were these representations of gods, shamanic visions, or something the Ubaid people actually encountered? The Sumerians had a word, Nam-lu-ulu. It means the condition of being human. But embedded in their texts is another concept, me, the fundamental forces of civilization. The me included everything from kingship and priesthood to music, writing, metalworking, and even the arts of lovemaking. According to myth, these weren't invented, they were gifts from the gods. The goddess Inanna once traveled to the god Enki's city and got him drunk. While he slumbered, she stole the me, all 100 of them, and brought them to her city, Uruk. When Enki woke and discovered the theft, he sent his servants to retrieve them. But Inanna escaped, and Uruk flourished beyond all other cities. A myth, of course. But myths often preserve memories. Memories of knowledge that came from somewhere else, from someone else, from before. In the Sumerian cosmology, before humans walked the earth, there were the Anunnaki, the gods who came from An, the heavens. The Sumerians were masterful astronomers. Their priests tracked the movements of planets with stunning accuracy, named constellations that we still recognize today, and divided the heavens into 12 houses, the zodiac. According to the Atrahasis epic, the Anunnaki created humans for a specific purpose: to work. The younger gods had grown weary of their labors, digging irrigation canals, maintaining the earth. So they rebelled. Enki proposed a solution. He would create a new being, a primitive worker, by mixing the clay of the earth with the blood of a slain god. The first humans were fashioned in the image of the gods, but lesser, mortal, bound to the earth, created to serve. For generations, this arrangement persisted. Humans multiplied, cities grew, but humanity became too numerous, too noisy. The god Enlil, disturbed by the clamor, decided to send a flood to wipe them out. But Enki, who had created humans, took pity. He whispered a warning to a man named Ziusudra, the Sumerian Noah. "Build a boat," Enki said. "Save yourself. Save the seed of all living things." The flood came. For 7 days and 7 nights, the waters consumed the earth. Cities vanished beneath the waves. Mountains disappeared. Everything the gods had built, gone. When the waters receded, Ziusudra emerged. He made sacrifice to the gods, and the gods, seeing that humanity had survived, granted him immortality. The Sumerian king list marks this moment. Then the flood swept over. After the flood had swept over, kingship descended from heaven once more. Modern archaeologists have found evidence of catastrophic flooding in Mesopotamia around 2900 BCE. Not a worldwide deluge, but devastating enough to destroy cities and reshape the landscape. The story of the flood appears in Sumerian texts 1,000 years before it was written in the Hebrew Bible. The Babylonians inherited it. The Hebrews adapted it. The Greeks echoed it in the tale of Deucalion. But here's what scholars find most intriguing. The Sumerian version insists this isn't mythology. It's history. The flood happened. And before the flood, there was something else. In 1853, in the ruins of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal's library at Nineveh, archaeologists discovered 12 tablets that would become the most famous literary work of the ancient world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest epic poem in human history, composed around 2100 BCE, but telling stories far, far older. Gilgamesh was the king of Uruk, a historical figure who ruled around 2700 BCE, but the tablets describe him as something more than human. 2/3 divine, blessed with supernatural strength and an insatiable thirst for glory. He was also a tyrant. He worked his people to exhaustion, claimed the right to any bride before her husband, and answered to no one. The gods heard the people's cries and created a wild man, Enkidu, to be Gilgamesh's equal, his challenger, his opposite. Enkidu lived in the wilderness, naked and innocent, running with gazelles, knowing neither civilization nor corruption. But a temple priestess was sent to civilize him. For 7 days and 7 nights, she taught him the ways of humanity. When it was over, the animals fled from him. He had become human. Enkidu came to Uruk to challenge Gilgamesh. They fought like gods, shaking the city walls, until finally, neither could defeat the other. And in that moment, enemies became brothers. Together, they journeyed to the cedar forest to slay the demon Humbaba. They defeated the bull of heaven sent by the goddess Ishtar. They were invincible. But the gods were displeased. For killing the bull of heaven, one of them had to die. Enkidu fell ill. For 12 days he suffered, while Gilgamesh watched, helpless. When Enkidu died, something broke in Gilgamesh. For the first time, the mighty king understood mortality. He was 2/3 divine, yes, but the remaining third was human. And that meant he, too, would die. Gilgamesh abandoned his throne and wandered the earth seeking the one thing no king could command: eternal life. He traveled to the ends of the earth, crossed the mountains where the sun sets, passed through the garden of the gods, and finally reached the waters of death. There he met Urshanabi, the ferryman, and demanded passage across to the island where the only immortal human lived, Utnapishtim, the Sumerian Ziusudra, the man who survived the flood and was granted eternal life by the gods. "Tell me," Gilgamesh begged, "how can I become like you? How can I escape death?" Utnapishtim told him the truth. There is no permanence. Do we build a house to stand forever? Does the river rise and flood and keep its volume? There is no immortality. He recounted the flood, the ark, the destruction of the world. "I survived by the grace of the gods," he said, "but that grace will not come again." Still, he offered Gilgamesh a test. "If you truly wish to conquer death, first conquer sleep. Stay awake for 7 days and 7 nights. Gilgamesh failed almost immediately. Sleep took him, and he slumbered for 7 days. Even the simplest form of death, temporary oblivion, he could not resist. So, are the Sumerian tablets the oldest evidence of human civilization? Yes, and no. They are the oldest written evidence. The first time humans looked at the world and said, "This must be remembered, this must endure." But beneath Sumer lie older cultures. Beneath those, older still. How far back does it go? We're still digging, still learning. The Sumerians gazed at these same stars and asked the same questions we ask now. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What happens when we die? They found no easy answers. Gilgamesh sought immortality and found only acceptance. The flood swept away the world, but knowledge survived. Perhaps that's the real lesson of Sumer. Not that they were first, though they may have been, but that they understood something profound. Civilization is fragile. Knowledge must be preserved. Memory must be carved in stone, pressed into clay, written where the winds cannot erase it. We are Sumer's children. Every word we write, every law we pass, every star we chart, every story we tell, we're continuing what they began. And somewhere beneath the sands, more tablets wait, more voices, silent for millennia, ready to speak. What will they tell us? What secrets remain buried? What will we learn about ourselves, about our origins, about the mysterious dawn of everything we know? The Sumerians believed that when the gods created humanity, they withheld one gift, immortality. But they were wrong. Because this is immortality. This moment, right now. You, hearing the voice of someone who died 4,000 years ago, learning their language, understanding their fears, sharing their wonder. The Sumerian word for humanity was namlu-ulu, the condition of being human. They defined it not by our mortality, but by our ability to create, to remember, to pass knowledge forward into an unknown future. That future is us. We are what they hoped for. We are the answer to their prayers, scratched desperately into wet clay 5,000 years ago. Please, remember us. We remember. The Sumerian enigma endures. The tablets still speak, and humanity is still listening.